Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who understand that there's more to entrepreneurship than finding the latest flash-in-the-pan strategies, who understand that in order to build your empire, you need a solid foundation. I wholeheartedly believe that entrepreneurship is the biggest self-development journey you can be on, and it's my mission to help you make that journey easier. In this show, I bring together the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist and mindset coach behind this show, and you're listening to the Wired for Success podcast. Hey there! Today I want to share a fascinating detail about beliefs and about how the mind works, because the better we understand our own thinking and our own intuitive assumptions about the world we live in, the easier it gets for us to spot thinking errors that keep us stuck. Do you sometimes think back to your childhood and just marvel at some of your beliefs that now seem so naive, like believing in Santa Claus, for instance? As a grown-up, those beliefs might seem silly. Maybe you've seen the meme where a mathematician calculates how fast Santa must travel to bring presents to all children on Christmas Eve. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but from what I've read, Santa has to average more than 1,250 households per second, giving him less than 1,250th of a second to park a sleigh, dismount, slide down the chimney, fill the stockings, put the remaining presents under the Christmas tree, consume the milk and cookies, climb back up the chimney, get back onto the sleigh, and move on to the next house. Put like this, I think we can agree that it's a rather unlikely scenario. When you look at the world through the filter of statistics and probability, you can pretty much rule out Santa as the source of your Christmas presents, right? But to a small child, it's not that obvious. A small kid isn't impressed or convinced by those numbers in the same way that you are. In the child's mind, there's still room for magic. And something that's highly unlikely is not necessarily impossible. It's just magic. But quite honestly, when I tell my kids that there is something called the internet, which is kind of like the biggest library you can imagine, and that you can access from anywhere in the world, except it's not a real place, that sounds rather unlikely too. Which reminds me of a quote by Arthur C. Clarke, who said, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And I think that's true to some extent. I also think that kids understand possibility as a continuous spectrum, going from highly likely, happens every time on the one side, to less likely, happens often but not always, to unlikely, happens sometimes, to magic, happens only in very special circumstances on the other side, like Santa or Christmas Eve. And on the surface, it's hard to see why the magic of Santa and the magic of the internet should fall into two different categories. So why are they different? Well, we know that Santa would have to travel at such a speed that he and his sleigh would instantly be vaporized within a fraction of a second. So there are actual laws of physics that rule out Santa as the possible source of your Christmas presents. With the internet, it's different though. There are no physical laws that rule out the possibility of creating the internet. It is an unlikely, improbable construct, yes, but it's not an impossible construct. So Santa is improbable and impossible, while the internet is improbable but possible. And the more we learn and understand the laws that govern our universe, the more we can differentiate between improbable and impossible. Even before you learned about statistics and probability, though, you had this innate intuition about the world and about the objects and life forms in it. What I've noticed is that as we grow older, this intuition often changes and we develop a stronger negative bias. So what do I mean by that? Well, as kids, we looked at impossible things and mistook them for simple, improbable things. So it felt like basically everything was possible. We just had to find the right special circumstances. As we grow older, though, our knowledge reduces the number of options and possibilities when we start to differentiate between improbable and impossible. So we just discard all the impossible things as non-options. And this is generally a good thing because it allows us to focus on finding possible solutions instead of wasting our time and energy going after impossible solutions. We often don't stop there, though. And that's where the negative bias I've talked about comes in. We mistake familiar occurrences for highly probable scenarios and unfamiliar ones for improbable or even impossible ones. Our knowledge and our experiences, they change our beliefs, and we increasingly mistake our beliefs and biases for truth that limit our options in a similar way as the natural laws of physics do. And then these mental, our beliefs and our biases, they become something like mental laws that dictate how we think, how we feel, and how we behave. So they develop into programs that run on autopilot and make us rigid and reactive. And the more of those limiting beliefs we have, the smaller is the pool of options we see in any given situation. And this really cages us in, if you like. In extreme cases, this can feel like we have no control over our lives, we have no alternatives to the ways we live, and our fate is determined by our circumstances. As I've often said, probably most of our limiting beliefs are subconscious. So how can you know that you have limiting beliefs? How do you know if working with a mindset coach like me is going to help you solve your problems? And that is a great question. And what I find is that you can easily gauge this by your feelings of inner peace and freedom. So if you feel at peace and you feel free to pursue your dreams and passions, there's nothing holding you back from going after your dreams, and you're making progress, no matter how big or small, then congratulations, you're fine. If you, however, experience a constant inner pressure, restlessness, and unease, you have this harsh inner critic and you tend to beat yourself up all the time. You feel confused, overwhelmed, or depressed, or like nothing you can do can ever change your direction, then chances are that it's your mental barriers more than anything else that are holding you back. And that's when working with a mindset coach can really help you distinguish between things that are just unfamiliar, improbable, or impossible, and help you recalibrate your intuitive sense about how the world works. So in a nutshell, I help you reprogram your mind and recalibrate your intuition so that you don't limit yourself anymore, so that you can be more creative and find better solutions, so that you can experience more inner peace, freedom, and joy, so that you can be you authentically and unapologetically. So if that is something that you would like to learn more about, just reach out to me or have a look at my website, wiredforsuccess.solutions. So I hope you found this helpful. Take care and talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show. It would mean the world to me because you'd help me reach more entrepreneurs like yourself who would love this show. If you'd like to learn more about creating a widely successful business without sacrificing your health, relationships, or sanity, make sure to stick around and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And why don't you help me spread the word and share this show with your friends? I'd really appreciate it, and I'm sure your friends will too. Want to continue this conversation, build real relationships, and join a community of like-minded entrepreneurs? Come join my free Facebook community for visionary entrepreneurs. I would love to see you there. In the meantime, if you haven't done so already, grab my free brain priming audio file for entrepreneurs and start priming your brain for success in less than 5 minutes each morning. Curious? You can learn more about how this works and download the audio file at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions. Until next time, bye!